Hello everyone, it is LB 3 Point Man, and I am back again with another draft profile video. Once again, these are made with the support of SBNation and Cincyjungle, so big thanks to them. This is my second draft profile of the season, and I am continuing with prospects that can be a bit polarizing for some. This player is actually in the top 3 of most mock drafts before the season, and he's still a top half of the first round player. This player is of course Houston defensive tackle Ed Oliver. Now it pains me to bring up the fact that Oliver went to Houston, as it paints his evaluation so much in both a positive and negative way that could have been avoided going to a better school. However, that will be touched on later. So let's get into this evaluation by looking at his athleticism. Once again, we are looking at a better version, more contextualized version of his athleticism with the help of Player Profiler. Now, as you can see, we're looking at a simplified version because he didn't do all the testing at the combine. However, I did calculate his speed score, and it was a 113, which is around the 90th percentile, which is very good. Now, Oliver's athleticism is a huge part of evaluating him, as it's one of the biggest reasons the ceiling is considered so high, and why he's a top 10 prospect, as he has extremely rare athleticism. Now, overall, his athleticism is a huge part of attempting to evaluate Oliver, and it can't be ignored, nor should it be. He can do things on the football field few other defensive tackles can. Now, let's move on to his strengths and weaknesses on tape, along with some things I'm including in the film analysis that are neither positive or negative, but are just things of interest that I noticed when watching him for this video. Let's start off with the strength and his ability to hold his ground against double teams. Oliver's low base allows him to hold his spot, even against players much larger than him or even double teams. He has a lot of strength in his lower half, and overall this leads to a player as a brick wall in the run game, can simply overpower offensive linemen sometimes in the pass game. If we take a look at this play, we can see that he's 2 offensive linemen double teaming him, but he's able to hold his ground perfectly well. Next up, we are going to do something a little different and look at his stats. Ed Oliver never really went up against the best competition in college, but even relatively, he wasn't as productive against some of the better teams that he did get to play. Now, this I believe could partially be translated to Houston's scheme, but I would have liked to see him more consistently dominate. Overall, though, he had great college production regardless of competition, and it can't really be used as a full knock on him, but it's just something to consider. Next is a strength that goes hand in hand with his athleticism, and that is his occasional flashes of his incredible burst off the line. He is consistently the first defensive player to make contact with an offensive lineman, and the ability to do this consistently is a huge boon to his pass rush ability. This instantly puts the offensive lineman in a hole and gives Oliver control of the battle right off the bat. This play actually did a freeze frame to really illustrate what I'm talking about. This is not a penalty. He was able to perfectly jump the snap, and not only that, but he was so quick that it hardly gave the offensive lineman time to react. Now, he doesn't make much of an impact on this specific play, but these are the kinds of plays that have NFL defensive line coaches climbing over each other to try to get to him. Next, I want to talk about one of those ambiguous facts about Oliver that I believe can be spun as a positive or a negative. This one I would personally say is a positive when evaluating him, and he is mostly used as a pure nose tackle in Houston's front. This is what I was talking about when I was complaining about Houston earlier. What this essentially means is that Houston played him in such a way that it was extremely difficult for him to produce, because he was almost always being double teamed, operating as a nose in a 3-4 defense, as that role is typically used to take on blocks. When he gets to the pros, it'll greatly benefit him to move to either a 5 technique in a 3-4 or a 3 technique in a 4-3, which allow him to tee off and grow as a pass rusher, which is a much better role for him. And if we look at this play, it really is a stun, but it just shows the wall that he would consistently go up against. Next, I want to talk about the fact that he did show some growth and some rudimentary pass rush moves while in college. His ability to better learn how to use his hands and develop some moves to disengage offensive linemen will be key to him reaching his potential. Seeing him do just that in college is very good. On this play, he uses a spin move to get off of the offensive lineman and bury the quarterback for a sack. Moving on to another semi-ambiguous thought is the fact that he did better against better competition. Now, you may be thinking, how is this different from the earlier weakness? But this is different because I wanted to look more at how he did perform against better competition. Let's look at this play. He's able to split a double team and get upfield easily against Texas Tech. I mean, heck, look at this other play. He tackles the running back by just shoving the center into him. He's just a monster, and it shows even in games against better competition than Houston. This next strength ties in really well with his athleticism, and it's something that I believe can also be backed up with the tape, and it's the fact that he may be able to kick outside on rundowns. Now, some of you may be confused, but if we take a look at this play, we can see that he starts on the edge of their 3-man front. He's able to keep up with the running back to the edge. That is incredible, and hints that he may be able to play outside on rundowns, I believe. Now let's look at the final strength, which is his motor and the way he always plays until the whistle is blown. On this play, he is blocked away from the play, yet he didn't give up, and is able to catch up and still be a part of the play and help make the tackle. With all the strengths and weaknesses out of the way, I want to talk about my overall thoughts on Ed Oliver. And if I'm being honest, I am torn. Taking Ed Oliver is a huge gamble, but I believe that it is a gamble worth taking. He has a long way to go to reach his ceiling, and he will instantly have extremely high expectations thrust upon him as soon as he steps foot in the NFL, and they will be extremely hard to live up to. However, his athleticism, his drive, and his motor, and the talent he showed in college indicates to me that he has the ability to take those next steps and become one of the NFL's best young players. And for the love of God, please get him away from the Houston defense. My comparison for Ed Oliver is an undersized defensive tackle who is also a great athlete, who was drafted by the New Orleans Saints, and it is defensive tackle Sheldon Rankin. Now, Sheldon Rankin sort of came out of nowhere when he was drafted as highly as he was, but looking back at his tape now, you can see a lot of similar things to what you see when you watch Ed Oliver with Houston, although Louisville actually knew how to use one of the most athletic defensive tackles in the country. But Rankins was raw coming out and has developed a nice assortment of pass rush moves after getting to the NFL and is now one of the better interior players in the league. Now to wrap up, I would like to say thank you to everyone who watched. Feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel for me and put in the comments what other plays you'd like me to do, and if there's any interest in continued videos after the draft. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed yourself and that you learned something new.